think. All right, a couple things before we get into the review. A reminder about absences. Not being here doesn't hurt you, but I ain't gonna help you. So it's nothing personal. And it's a hard line. Guys, 5 absences is a ton of absences. All right? That's a lot. And I give them to you for emergencies. I give them to you for when you're sick. I give them to you for when you're late. But it doesn't take away from your grade. It just doesn't help you. I'm going to help people who are here. Okay? Friday's class will be all about making sure you know where you stand. Of course, I'd love for everybody to, I don't know, keep up with their grades. And I know life sometimes doesn't allow us to do that. So if you know what you have, you can, I'm not taking attendance Friday because it doesn't apply to everybody. But if you want to make sure you have that A, make sure you have that B, want to see where your absences are, to see if your lowest grade gets dropped, that's what Friday is about. Friday is about making sure you have all the information. Okay? That's what Friday is about. Our exam, I just checked, and you guys double check me, because like I said, after doing this since '06, every year, every semester, finals on a different day, different time. Our final is scheduled for Friday, next Friday, not this Friday, but finals Friday, at 7:30 in the morning. I wish I could make the schedule myself, but they haven't allowed me to do that yet. Okay? Now, let's get to the meat and potatoes and me clarifying your questions. Anybody want to break the ice this morning?
Can you go over trunk movement a little bit?
What's in the aluminum foil?
Biscuits with ham in it.
Nice. Maybe that could be my biscuit with ham in it. It's my birthday coming. Did you know that?
No.
Now you do. And I love biscuits. I'm messing with you. What was your question?
Can you go over trunk movement and whatnot?
About what movement?
Trunk.
Trunk movement, sure. I think the trunk is swaying or bending in 2 regions. Trunk flexion, extension, that's sagittal sway. Flexion gets you more in the fetal. Extension gets you less in the fetal. Even if I started in an extended position and I came to anatomical, that's more in the fetal than I was when I was back there. Into fetal, away from fetal. Right and left lateral trunk bending is frontal sway. Even if I start right lateral and go to anatomical, I'm bending in the direction of left lateral. Left lateral, right lateral, to the left, to the right. And then we have our transverse rotation, that forward, because the center of mass doesn't go forward, up, back, right? It's more pure. Spin to the right, spin to the left, right transverse, left transverse.
Okay.
Cool? What it would look like when we move the pelvis would be trunk flexion, trunk extension, left lateral, right transverse, left transverse. That was from the perspective of the trunk, because you asked about trunk motion.
From the perspective of the right hip, for example, what you just did, instead of the perspective of the trunk, what would change?
Okay.
As far as
So you know, if I just move the trunk, the hip doesn't have to do anything, right? But if I move the pelvis, right, the trunk doesn't have to do anything. I could have done this, right? So don't look at it from trunk, hip, because that darn pelvis in there is that transition. These guys, hips and trunks, are not linked to each other. However, if I move the pelvis and I had dual motion, right, my hip extension was responsible for the posterior pelvic girdle rotation, and my trunk flexion kept my shoulders and eyes level so that I didn't do this. Okay? So, right lateral, right hip ab, left hip ad, left lateral, this is pelvic girdle perspective. Left ab, right ad, anterior hip flexion, posterior hip extension. Right transverse, right hip internal, left hip external, left transverse, left hip internal, right hip external. So don't say my trunk did something so my hips had to do something. That's not the case at all. They can. They are not married together. Did I answer that question or give some sense to it? Just want to make sure I did. All right, front rows coming in hot, guys. Yeah.
Does all motion mean we're working above resting tone?
No. Not in how you phrased the question. You said, does motion mean? Motion, I can move your shoulder, like if you're on a therapy table and passively move you, that means your muscles were working. Right? In fact, I'd be like, relax, let them rest. So, or how about this doozy? If I relax all my muscles, I can have motion and not have muscles, right?
Right.
So, motion itself does not mean your muscles were responsible for it.
Okay.
It becomes an issue when your muscles were responsible for it. When your muscles caused motion, sped up motion, slowed down motion, prevented motion above rest, well now they're doing a job.
Okay.
And when they're doing a job, we have to identify things like who did that job? How did they do that job? Okay? But the way you phrased it, does motion mean that something's working? No.
Okay.
Front row, man, keep it going, guys.
For when you did the right side plank example, and you said how it'll be a left.
If anybody needs me to repeat a question, please let me know, okay? It might just be because I have a lot of fluid in my ears, but if anybody needs me to repeat it, please let me know. I apologize.
And how it would be the left lateral benders that you use to hold your neck upright. Why would it be your right side of your trunk
Okay.
that keeps you up? Well,
It's a good question. Think of it like, let's pretend we had a banana. This is totally random. Let's imagine, I wanted something that can hold on its own, but it's not very stiff, right? Let's say we got a banana, and we put it between two blocks, so the middle sags in the middle, right? Okay, and I strapped a weight to the bottom. You can imagine that weight would make that banana do this. It would make the banana bend at the top part, okay? It's the same thing when we do a plank. Here's a block, the ground is a block, and gravity is trying to sag, trying to pull the middle of, if I was a banana, it would try to pull the middle of me down and make me bend. In this case, gravity is trying to make me bend to my right. If I relax, I'm bent to the right. If I was on my other arm, it would want to bend me to the left. And the reason is it's not just gravity trying to bend me. Gravity is trying to bend the middle, but the ground is trying to push the two other ends of the banana underneath up. It's called a three-point bend. So I need the muscles on the bottom part to splint to prevent me from bending back. It's like if you were gonna build a plate on that banana to keep it from sagging, you want to build that plate on the bottom part to keep it from sagging down. The head's different. The head is, nothing's pushing the head up here, right? So if I was leaning my head on a chair, I would need these bottom muscles. But if I'm doing a plank, there's nothing pushing on my head. So in this case, gravity is trying to do this to me. So I need muscles that pull this way. Here, gravity in the ground is trying to do this to me. So I need muscles that pull back this way. So that's why. It's because for the trunk, you have other forces that are adding to the sag. Whereas your neck, you don't. You just have gravity that's trying to plop it down. It's a great question. So it still goes to something I taught you guys. You could always do the scenario, the thought experiment. What would happen if I turned off everything? turned off everything in the head, if you turned off everything in the trunk, I'm bent to my left. But if I turned off the muscles in my head, bent to the right. It's one way to see it. Anybody have any questions about like grades, or not your grade, I ain't got time for that. But just you understand that every test counts the same, right? There's no weighted stuff, and if you've come to class and you've missed less than 5 days, you can drop your lowest test, meaning that if you have a B average for your first 3 exams, you can choose to not take the final because you just dropped it. So for you guys that have come to class, the final technically is optional based on if you want to just keep the grade you have. It's a cool position to be in.
Can you go over the vertical jump again from the perspective of hips, knees, and ankle?
Absolutely. Don't expect me to jump very high today, okay? So, in biomechanics, we talk about phases. For lack of a better term, imagine if we had a slingshot, and we know that the slingshot, that action phase of the slingshot, what's the purpose of a slingshot? It's to speed up a projectile, whether it's a rock or a stone or whatever. But before it speeds it up, you gotta prep it. you gotta bring it back in order to allow it to speed up. It's a prep phase. It's like a cocking phase. Then the action phase is actually doing what you're trying to do. When I'm trying to jump up as high as I can, that action phase, what's actually gonna get me up in the air is when I have the hip extension, knee extension, and eventually the plantar flexion. That's what's actually gonna make me get up. However, if I start here, I'm not in a position to do those motions yet. I have to prep my hips, my knees, and my ankles. And so when I drop down and I have hip flexion, knee flexion, ankle dorsiflexion, I would love for that motion to happen real fast, because if I change my direction in a small amount of time, that's going real fast, that means I'm going to be using a lot of force. Also, I get what we call stored elastic potential energy. I get to tap into the stretchy rubber band-like properties if I do it real quick. I can't, however, go down faster than gravity because I'm not pulling on anything. If I had straps over my feet, I could pull myself down. But if I use my hip flexors and my knee flexors, I would literally just pull my feet off the ground. So I can only go down as fast as what gravity can let me. Okay? It's like you're in a free fall. When you think about it, when you do this, you're kind of free falling down. Okay? So, is that eccentric? Well, we need some biomechanical analysis to really see, did you go the speed that gravity could offer, any slower? That needs some eccentrics, but it's negligible. The key thing, though, is that what's going to stop my flexion? What's going to stop, my knee flexion, hip flexion, and dorsiflexion are going to be my plantar flexors, knee extensors, hip extensors through eccentric work. Putting on the brakes, changing my direction, and speed me up through concentric work. So your plyometric sequence would be at that down bottom part, right? Okay? So what's actually going to get me up in the air? Hip extensors, concentric work. Knee extensors, concentric work. Ankle plantar flexors, concentric work.
So when you're going down without having jumped up first, even just that motion down, that's an eccentric work.
There will be eccentrics, yes. Specifically, the only thing I would ever ask is what slowed down your flexion, and dorsiflexion. Because of that, we don't know. If somebody does it kind of slow, then it would be eccentrics all the time. But if someone free falls, then their muscles would literally just turn off until it comes time to slow them down. But if I said what slowed down your flexion, then without a shadow of a doubt, we know what happens. Those muscles do eccentric. So, question, did I answer it to you? Good.
Could we go over cervical flexion extension whenever you're moving faster than what gravity has to offer? Like when you're, doing that.
No problem, my specialty. So, first let's do normal motion. Normal, I say normal. Within activities of daily living, you're usually not going to go faster than that. All of your neck motion is going to be, I say slow and controlled, but your eyes, man, is so special for your function. And when you're doing that, everything becomes a blur. You can't process data. So you like slower control of motion so that you can have time to take in all of the photons that you're collecting. Sometimes you got to go faster than that, right? So in this example, if you were going, there's more mass in the front that wants you to flex you anyway, but it has a limited magnitude of speed. If I relax everything. Okay. So if I want to go faster than that, and I can't use my extensors to push me forward, I got to use my flexors to concentric work, to work with gravity, to speed me up faster than what gravity can offer. And when it comes time to slow it down, I'm going to turn those off. I'm going to turn on the extensors, slowing down my flexion to eccentric work, changing my direction, speeding up my extension to concentric work. Turn them off, slow down my extension to concentric work, cervical flexors. Change my direction, speed up flexion through concentric work. And then you just flip-flop.
Gotcha.
Remember this might have been like 9 years ago, it was called shake weight. Remember the shake weight? That's all it is. It's the same thing, where you're just fluctuating flexors and extensors in plyometric sequences in small windows of motion. That's all it is. Speeding up, slowing down, speeding up, slowing down, speeding up, slowing down.
When you're stretching your muscles, when you're stretching your muscles, those muscles can only go to what somebody's specific range of motion is, correct? Like that particular person, usually it's normal range of motion, and then if you don't use those joints, you lose the elasticity of those muscles because they shorten into that position, kind of like a bicep in a sling. So if you were to extend your bicep or have your friend
Bicep does not extend.
extend your elbow joint, if you were to extend your elbow joint coming out of a sling quickly, as opposed to just doing this, would that increase increase the chance of what? The overuse injury. See, I'm not understanding like why it says overuse injury if you're only using it once. Does that make sense or no?
Let's be patient. Let's be patient. Show me specifically what it says overuse.
Like motion in certain areas.